Welcome to the Vistage podcast. I'm your host, Marisa Kamall, and I'd love to introduce you to our guest, Umar Rana, founder and CEO of Alchemative. Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm honored to be invited to this podcast. Thank you.
It's great. It's great to have you here. And, you know, our listeners, I'm sure they'll be as excited as I am to hear about your leadership journey and how you founded Alchemative. So can you tell us a bit about your background and how you are where you are today?
Yeah, so let's start with the directly into the business journey. So I started this company in 2014, which is basically Alchemative, and it was started out as a software house, a typical technology company, which was with an ambition of solving problems. So the main vision from day one was to basically create solutions for businesses and communities in general, because I always thought that I'm very good with problem solving. So I can actually understand what kind of problem business is facing and what kind of technology is most suitable for this kind of problem to solve. So that is where this company started as a software house as a technology. First 2 years were not very good for us because I did not have the business background. I did not have a finance background or a marketing sales background. So being a pure techie, solutions comes easy to you, but business is not that easy for somebody like this. But in the process of these 2 years, there was a lot of learning. We were able to build a reasonable team, which was capable of delivering solutions. We were able to understand how the market operates and what kind of solutions people are looking for. And in 2016, we got a breakthrough by receiving a problem from one of the largest retail companies in the country that they want something to be done with business intelligence solution. And we solved that problem fairly quickly, which gave us another problem to solve. They gave us another problem to solve. And that became the word of mouth for the local market. And we started getting different companies contacting us that we have this problem in e-commerce and retail space. So within 3 years, short period of 3 years, from 2016 to 2019, we became the largest technology services company in terms of e-commerce solutions within our country. And we sort of become the market leader. During this process, we also took partnership with Shopify and became Shopify Plus partners for the region. And then we expanded the region from Middle East to Middle East as well, MENA region as well. Initially, we started in APAC region. Yeah, that's where this whole e-commerce expertise and e-commerce leadership came to us. While on this journey, obviously you do understand the problems of the market and you start building solutions. And over a period, your solutions start becoming bigger and bigger. And then those solutions eventually turn into departments and then entities, companies. So I had been fortunate in the last 10 years to basically found at least 5 different companies based out of those products or services which we build in Alchemative into omni-channel fulfillment solutions, payment mediation platforms, even a marketing company, marketing performance management company, which is not my core expertise, but just because of having the right team in the equation, we were able to create that department and eventually an entity. And all of those companies are doing very good in their own regard. So yeah, Alchemative actually fathered or nurtured, I would say, a lot of other entities in this process of 10 years. Yes.
That's amazing. So it just grew really quickly over, you know, you kicked off and you dug deep for those 2 years and then you just managed to grab an opportunity in the market and run with it.
Yeah, that's how it worked. From a retrospective perspective, yes, it seems very simple that yes, you got an opportunity and you started growing with that. But obviously, you know, a lot of things go in this process of building teams, solving problems, pricing, strategy, growth, regional expansion, local expansion, customer management. So all of these things actually was something we learned as well. Especially I learned because this is not something I had as my background. Being a pure techie, I never had interacted with clients in most of my career before starting my business. So yes, and forming these new entities and understanding how startup world works and how this equity structuring works and how you can enable your existing team members to become partners with you, because this is one of the key learnings I also feel that I should have had before starting the company, that it's always best to start with partners. Never start alone because the journey becomes more difficult. But in a way, I would say I was unfortunate to start this whole journey alone. But over a period, I found excellent partners to grow other entities along the way. Yeah.
Fantastic. Look, I'd love to hear more about your learnings a bit later, but I just want to rewind a little bit and hear about kind of your story before founding Alchemative, because didn't you once get fired by your own father?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, so I started this company in 2014. I resigned from my job, which was a telecom carrier. I was working with telecom for the last 9 years before that, into different technology roles, into contact centers, business intelligence solutions, enterprise IT, cloud computing, data centers. But by 2019, sorry, 2013, I was set to start something of my own because I was always considered someone who's out of the box, who's creative with solutions, and who's always about doing something new. And in a typical job, there comes a point where the newness or the capacity to innovate becomes limited because the organization it's a large organization, it has grown, it's matured, so innovation starts decreasing. At that time, my father's business was growing rapidly because he was into industrial automation and robotics, and he got a very large project from Adidas, and he was building a machine to basically manufacture soccer ball without human intervention, without actually being done by humans. So uh, he said, "Okay, why don't you join me?" So I joined him because that was a natural progression. So he's into robotics and industrial automation. The next thing is software. So that it makes sense. I joined his business, but within 2 months, uh, I think we both realized, mainly he realized, that maybe we cannot work together because we come from a very different backgrounds. I come from a corporate background. He comes from an industrial background. And he suggested, okay, why don't you start something which you have been doing for the last 15 years? So in a way, yes, I got fired from my father's company. And then that made me start my own entity in
Mhm.
2 months or 1 month. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in your journey actually from technology background into turning that into a commercial opportunity, because the two things are quite different, aren't they? And requiring, acquiring those skills on business development, marketing, and really being able to drive the business forward. What was that journey like for you?
So there are a couple of things which work naturally for me. I will mention this answer as well, but there were a lot of difficulties because with a technical career of 15 years, somebody who never have to interact with end customers or somebody who have never looked into pricing or structuring how the solution should be built. It's all about this is the company's need, this is a problem they need to solve, and I need to provide a technology solution around it. That's about it. And my customer or my what would say the first interaction point is always my next in line boss or manager or director or whatever. So when I started the business, so the main problem was I did not have a network. Being a typical introvert techie, you do not have networks. You do not have a lot of friends who are doing business. Most of your friends and colleagues are also techies. So you sort of a very close network without that business understanding. And I was never very interested in learning about finance and accounting in my education or my career. And it never came to me that's as important. Same goes for marketing. So first 2 years in the business that is what you can say the eye opener that okay, you cannot do business as a techie. You need to learn all these stuff in order to actually make something. Because even if you create solution, that solution needs to be priced. There needs to be market research. There needs to be promotion of that product, and then eventually you need to go in the market, meet people, close the sales somehow. So yeah, that was the difficult part. So for me, or maybe this is true for most of the introverts, they tend to lean towards courses and books whenever they're stuck because that's their only friend. They go to books and start searching what's the solution for this problem they are facing right now. That's what happened to me as well. And I started reading into leadership books and management books and business books. And so one thing came to me. Obviously, this is something everybody knows, but sometimes you read a book and then, oh, I was missing this, that I don't need to be an expert of everything. I can basically bring in the people who can cover up for me. So if I have a weakness, why don't I hire someone who have that as a strength rather than me trying to develop that as a strength? So the book was good to great. So it's a great book. So yeah, that is where things started changing. I started bringing in people in the company who know more marketing than me, more sales than me, and that's how things started changing. But even during this process of 2 years and after that, I realized that I am always a good salesman because my closure rate was essentially 99% uh, without even knowing sales. So Later on, I realized that I am able to close sales not because I have the knowledge of closing sales or I have the technique of, it's because I'm very transparent with my customer. I
Mhm.
don't try to sell anything. I try to solve their problem. Maybe that is something which made me easily sell anything, because my focus was always about win-win situation. It's not that I'm going to sell this and run away. I need to solve his problem, because if this company's problem is solved, they will automatically pay for it. So maybe that approach made me a good salesman without any actual sales background. Yeah.
Mm. Well, it sounds like the product that you created, like you talk, actually solves problems, and you're
Yeah.
already meeting customer needs, which is, the fundamentals. I have my own journey of trying to sell something actually that just wasn't suitable. So perhaps I should have taken your lead. You talked a bit around leadership values there and not needing to be the expert in the room, which I love, and transparency. Can you tell me what's important to you as a leader and how that plays out in your organization?
Yeah. So when I started this company, the key values I want to work on, and these values were not something I formulated out of, okay, I need to have values to be on my website. These values were there in me from day one. I had been practicing throughout my career. And number one was transparency, that I need to be transparent as much as possible. I need to trust everyone by default, because everyone by default is a good person.
Mhm.
So transparency comes from that, and maybe that is to some extent rooted in my childhood as well, because the kind of environment I was growing in, there were no survival issues. We were not having any problems in our family with respect to financials or livelihood. We were a respected family, so maybe that came naturally to me, that I don't see anyone as a threat. I don't see anyone as a potential problem for me. So problem person for me. So for me, trusting anyone was the first thing to do without any thought about it. And that translated into being transparent about my dealings, about my communication, and not worrying about hidden meanings or something like that. Second thing was, I think that again came from my childhood and upbringing. That was excellence. So whatever you do your best, and
Mhm.
then forget about the results, because results are not in your control most of the time. It's the environment, it's sometimes luck, it's sometimes other people, it's sometimes so many factors. Result is dependent on what you are in control of, what you are doing with that particular situation. So your response to a particular situation is important, not the outcome.
Mhm.
So that is the other thing which I think I got it from a family. So excellence was the second thing. And third thing, which I think I mainly got from my father, is the agility, because he is always about being prepared for the situation. So whatever situation comes in, you should be prepared to handle that. That means you should have the adaptability to adapt according to the situation. It could be a financial problem, it could be a situational problem, it could be anything. But you need to have the adaptability to understand, analyze, and then respond according to the situation. These three things automatically became my sort of personal values, and then eventually became company's values. So we started with these three value systems in the company. And I think these values helped me build a company in which we do not have typical organizational politics or backbiting. We have a very high trust environment. Everybody is comfortable working there. Everybody is always about, okay, let's focus on the work, let's focus on the learning, because they have this comfort factor that everyone in this organization is not going to undermine their situation. Everyone is focused on their work. So I think this helped me build that kind of open, safe environment for my team to basically grow into.
Yeah, and trust is so important. And, it's been proven time and time again where there's a trust ingrained culture that, companies are way more profitable, more driven by innovation and ability to work across teams and functions. I'm interested to know, and I'm sure our listeners are, how you build that trust.
The most fundamental, as I mentioned, is always about being transparent in every possible manner. So when I communicate with my team members, I try to be as transparent as possible. We have an all team meeting every week, in which every department is supposed to discuss every possible issue with every other person in that open meeting. So essentially, everybody is in the room, and there's no backdoor communication. And So I think that kind of open policy, to be always available for everyone to approach me and discuss whatever they want to discuss, sometimes even their personal matters.
Mhm.
I think that kind of environment actually created the trust, which can be. And second thing is, uh, whatever organization is doing. So if organization is doing good or bad, performing well or not performing well, everything is shared as it is with the team. So this is what our challenges are. This is where we are performing well. This is where we are not performing well. These are our revenue numbers, sort of, which whoever is responsible, relevant to that. So what this creates also, that okay, we know everything about the organization. There is nothing hidden. If the
Mhm.
organization is not giving bonus this year because it's not making money, but this year it's giving us these four benefits because organization made. So it's like, it's not my organization anymore. It's like everybody's organization. So that's the main mindset I try to work on within the company as well. That it's I'm alone, nothing. I cannot do anything. This company is about all these team members. So we've been together a company. It's not my company, it's your company in that sense. So maybe this thought process and this push for this kind of openness created that kind of environment where everybody trusts the environment and trusts the process. Yes.
That's great. And I think enabling people to bring themselves to work is so important. You know, you talked about people talking about their personal matters, but I mean, that's the majority of their lives. So it's important to create that environment where we trust each other enough to know what's going on outside of work. My experience of working with tech teams, because you touched on agility and adaptability, is that actually because of the nature of your work, you're super used to being like failing fast, learning. Have I got that right? Fail, learn
Yeah.
fast. But has that helped you, do you think, build this kind of culture of agility?
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the principles which we routinely apply in our company is the lean principle, the lean startup principle, which means the the intent is to basically learn from every failure.
Mhm.
And as long as we have a learning outcome of our failure, that is not a failure anymore. That's a learning opportunity, which means all we have to do is ensure that we do not fail with the same reason next time. That's all. And eventually we eliminate all the reasons for failure. And this is the process. I mean, the lean startup is a very good methodology. I think every software house, every technology company, or even non-technical companies can benefit from this kind of mindset of an experiment oriented environment where the objective is to learn from the experiment and implement that learning into whatever the next project we are trying to achieve or that company is trying to do. So yeah, this really helped us build an environment where learning is encouraged and appreciated, uh, and the focus is on doing constant experimentation because and we are in technology and everybody understands in technology, if you're not always innovating, you're
Mhm.
essentially dead, because maybe a lot of businesses can survive by not innovating for some time, but technology essentially cannot even survive for a year without innovation, technology companies. So yes, I think this is part and parcel of what we are. And it did help that I have this mindset from the get-go. Maybe I don't need to develop this mindset in this process. I had this mindset from the get-go. And again, your childhood is always very important in building your thought process. I read Deepak Chopra when I was 15 or 14. And there was this principle in his book that the law of uncertainty. And that really hit me. Okay, you have to be always uncertain about every possible future occurrence. So
Mhm.
because if you're uncertain, you can only be prepared. If you're
Yeah.
certain about something going to happen, you are never prepared because you're certain about it. So that really hit me. And the second thing that hit me was the law of abundance, that
Mhm.
there's abundance in this universe and there is abundance of opportunities in every situation. It's the way you see the world. So
Yeah.
if you have the right way of seeing the world, you will always look at the opportunity. So yeah, maybe these basic things not coming through the business process, through the grooming, early stage grooming, help me not struggle too much with these concepts when you actually start doing something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think just seeing the positivity and opportunity through struggling times really helps. You know, it is mindset and practicing gratitude and just being able to drive forward and instilling that in the team. With that, I'm interested to know, I mean, it's 2024. What are the biggest challenges that your industry is facing right now?
So obviously for us, more or less, I think the whole world is facing this challenge together. That is the challenge of AI. AI bringing in so much change so rapidly that everybody is worried. Okay, what are we going to do next year? Is my job safe? Is my business safe from AI? So this is one of the challenges, but I also see it as the greatest opportunity of our time as well, because what it enabled us to start performing at maybe 10 times the speed we can perform before that. So in a way, it's an opportunity for us to grow into. Yes, there are some challenges for the typical developer community, because a lot of developers are right now feeling that maybe they're obsolete in 2 years because AI is going to write code for them. And that might be true. But what I communicate to every developer is that the important thing is who's giving instructions to AI. If you do not have the right person giving instructions to AI, you're not going to get the right solution out. So AI, as of now, is not at a stage where it can figure out everything itself. It needs the right input, which people call prompts. So the best person to write those prompts is the person who's the subject matter expert. So in a way, I believe there's a lot of opportunity and challenge at the same time. So yeah, from this perspective, this is the only challenge we see as of now, which we need to address. And from a human resource perspective, the way overall society have evolved, especially post-pandemic, and especially Gen Z when we talk about them, uh, we've started thinking as life in a manner of sprints rather than a marathon. Life is a marathon, it's not a sprint, which means you have to plan long term, you have to have those steps, you need to have a plan to build yourself up and reach a certain point. Whereas the current Gen Z expectation or the current environment, I would say, not just the Gen Z, I think everybody's into this frenzy now after post COVID, especially, that we need to do whatever we need to do in the next 3 months, next 6 months. That's all the life is about. If we do not achieve something in next 1 year, that means we are dead, we have failed, we have lost the battle. Sort of that mindset have created a sort of uncertainty which is affecting the workplace now, because people are not looking at their careers as a long-term career. They're looking at from a gig economy perspective. So everything is a short-term thing for them. So they want to do, okay, I can work in this company for 3 months, 6 months, gain some experience and switch. And obviously this can happen for maybe initially in the start of your career for some time, but eventually it is going to destroy your career. Eventually it is not going to give you the depth of skill set you need to have in really building something big and great. Because if you really want to build something big and great that lasts, that can have a legacy and that lasts your lifetime, you need to develop depth in your capabilities, in your skill set, in your knowledge. And depth cannot be developed by just doing gigs.
That's a common theme that comes up with me and the CEOs that I coach. What advice would you give to people to manage that, to business owners?
Yeah, so one thing I've realized, and I think I implemented this early on in my company, and I think to some extent I was in a way fortunate to know this somehow and implement it without knowing the actual good things that come out of this, is bringing those bringing this young generation and people with this mindset into the fold of creating a long-term relationship with them by maybe offering them equity. Because right now what they see is, okay, I joined this company as a job and I earn this money, I get this experience, and then I can switch and get a higher job, salary job from somewhere else. But if you give them this ownership in the company in some form, okay, if you work with me for maybe 3 years, you're going to get an equity of this in this company, and we can grow together as partners. You're no more an employee, you're a partner with me. So I believe this is very important to understand for young and modern businessmen, even who are not young, they're into 50s or whatever, that the future is about ownership. The future is about bringing in everyone on board with the success. The time have gone for people to just work for you and then just survive. You need to ensure that they grow as you grow. So I believe if you can make sure in your environment that when you grow, they also grow, and they feel that my growth is directly dependent on this and his growth is dependent on me, so we're interdependent in the growth process, the possibility of them staying with you increases automatically.
I love that advice. Thank you. What are your companies? So we talked a lot about the challenges and learnings. Now I want to hear, the exciting stuff. What are your aspirations for the next, I don't know, short to long term?
So yeah, so I believe that as through my story, in a way, you already understand that I'm not somebody who's pro business in that sense. I'm not a businessman by nature or by my thought process is always about I love acquiring knowledge and then sharing that knowledge. So this is something which had been with me throughout my life. And recently I realized that, so I was going through this mental exercise a year back. What is something I can do for rest of my life without getting bored or without even getting paid for? What is
Mhm.
that one thing? Then I realized that the only thing I can do without getting paid or bored is constantly acquiring new knowledge and skills, and then making sure that I transfer that knowledge and skill to somebody else. And that somebody else achieves success or some kind of growth through that knowledge. That satisfies me more than anything in life. So, in a way, I'm now structuring my next engagements where this kind of thought process can be implemented. So I'm in a process of creating a new entity, a company, which is primarily based on the concept of consulting. Because what I realized in my 10 years of business, that there are a lot of vendors, there are a lot of software companies who can provide you solutions. But there are very few people and companies who are actually capable of understanding what the actual problem is, or what are the
Mhm.
actual pain points of a customer, what they actually need without the commercial mindset of selling something. So that is where my consulting direction is that I need to become a person who is more focused about solving their pain and problems rather than just selling them something. And so this is one direction I'm taking. The second direction I'm taking is I'm part of an incubator, basically UAE based incubator, Hub 47, and that is basically a not-for-profit incubator, which means my role primarily there is to enable new startups to shorten their journey of success, share what I have learned in my 10 years, so that if I can help with that and shorten their journey towards growth and success, I can do that. So these are the interactions or these kind of ventures I'm going into more and more now, rather than purely commercial ventures.
Mm. Yeah, it's really exciting to be able to, think about all your tenure in business and how successful you've been, and now turn that into consultancy and mentorship and give back.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think this gives me more happiness than achieving any financial success, because I was able to, I had the opportunity to mentor two or three software companies, marketing companies as well. And because of that process, they were able to understand that maybe they're not in the right business. They need to change the business. They need to change the process. And for them, at least, this is their feedback, that it was transformational for them to understand that they've been trying to do something and they're not even ready to do that for the last 10 years. So, and this gives me, I would say, happiness, that okay, I'm able to solve for someone a problem which they even think that did not even exist.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is the kind of thing that yeah, brings me joy.
Oh, fantastic. Look, I have one last question for you, to finish up. And you've started this journey and you changed direction after the incident with your father's company to go on to build Alchemative. And now you've started another company focused on the consultancy side, and you're doing the work with the incubator as well. Thinking back about your journey and how much you've achieved, what advice would you give to I guess an 18-year-old just setting out on their entrepreneurial journey now?
Yeah, so obviously everybody who would be asked this question is very, I would say, relevant. They will always answer with the relevance to their situation.
Mhm.
So anything that I have, in a way, not as a skill in me. So I would always encourage someone, 18-year-old or myself, to be open to networking,
Mhm.
to connect with more people as much as possible, to learn as much as possible, to experiment as much as possible with different technologies, with different learning experiences, and to start a business as soon as possible. That's one of, but obviously having some basic foundation experience, that's very important. Do a very good basic 5 to 10 years of career with some larger entities, which gives you challenge. Not don't don't go for a career which pays you very well in the beginning. Try to get a job which is which pushes you, which pushes your boundaries to learn, which makes you uncomfortable, at least for first 5 years, because those uncomfortable first 5 years are going to be with you for life.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's something I would tell somebody who's 18-year-old.
That's excellent advice. And it's so much easier to leave a role that doesn't pay you as much than if you get into one of these high paid roles, that it becomes, you just sort of get stuck in the rat race, as it were, and it's difficult to step out. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Umar, for this conversation. I've really enjoyed it and appreciate you taking the time out and sharing your insights in your journey.
Thank you for having me on this, and I really enjoyed this conversation as well.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.